the morning, grab a cup and tune on in. Robert and Dave got that southern charm, let the laughter begin. From the morning funny to MAGA minute, ain't no better way to start your day the southern way, with a little joke and pray. We're just southern folks talking southern things, front porch swinging where the church bells rang. From mama said to hum day news, we keep it real with down home views. Sunday morning in the Word, get that gospel flow. Prayer time calls, so let's let our troubles go. Come Monday night, mama said, is bringing the truth. And when it's night talk with Dave, man, you know it's getting loose. We're just southern folks talking southern things, stories and sports where the good times hang. From SFP News to I Remember That, we tell it like it is, and that's a fact. Got our veteran of the week, gotta show our pride. Pets of the week, bringing love worldwide. Talking paranormal, digging true crime. Southern fried stories all the dang time. So pull up a chair, y'all, and stay a while. Ain't nothing like that southern style. From the morning show to the soundstage band, it's SFP Live, won't you give 'em a hand? So pull up a chair, y'all, and stay a while. Ain't nothing like that southern style. From the morning show to the soundstage band, it's SFP Live, won't you give 'em a hand?
And we are live, and we appreciate everybody that is in the chat already. Appreciate you. Hope you're having a wonderful Saturday, It is beautiful where I'm at. It started out a little cool, but it is quickly changing over to some really nice weather. And we hope that you're able to get out and enjoy that and make, these are great days. I mean, it looks like for us, the coldest of the weather hopefully is gone, and we're just going to slide on into spring, and looking forward to that. Love to get outside. We're going to, of course, here at the studio, we're going to set up an outdoor area. We may even broadcast from there just a little bit. When the evenings, when the time changes, the evenings goes out, we may do some special programming from truly from the front porch for our front porch programming, if I can get the words out. And so y'all bear with me. I'm actually added in a couple of streams today for this Saturday, and just making sure that everything looks okay. And so far, I believe that it does. But again, what a weekend start with the blow up in the White House. We're going to talk about that some, and a couple of other news items that's sort of getting, I think, maybe getting left to the sideline of just a little bit, and definitely want to stay on the radar of what those things are and what's happening with those. So I was at, and for those that might not have seen the show last night, I was at a veterans event before the show last night, which was great. It was honoring Desert Storm veterans, and our speaker was a wonderful, and I want to make sure I get his name right. I've really enjoyed the speaker, Brigadier General retired Bob Woods. I want to make sure I give credit there. He has quite a career, and he's a take charge kind of guy. He's a great guy. He's a great rapport with people, and I love what he did at the end, or right before we were going to eat dinner. They wanted to do a group photo with all of the Desert Storm veterans, and of course with him. And they had everybody lined up on the stage. This is great. This is the kind of thing. It's the little things in life that mean a lot. They had everybody lined up on stage, had them all situated and everything. Well, they said, "Hold on, there's getting ready to take the picture." In fact, they might have already snapped one. They said, "Hold on, there's another one coming," and it was a gentleman who was having a hard time getting there. He was on a cane and people were helping him. They were walking with him so he wouldn't fall. And it was taking a bit. Well, when he got up there where he would have to climb stairs to come up on the stage, Brigadier General retired, Brooks said, let's go down on the floor level and take the picture there so this gentleman doesn't have to climb the steps. I love that. That's a leader looking out for soldiers. You could tell that he really cared, and not that anybody else did not, but he was a take charge kind of guy. Who's going to tell the brigadier general he can't come down and take the picture? And it worked out even better. And this was an inaugural event, and I talked to the local legion, and I told them to let us know anytime they're going to have something like that. The company I work for actually helped to sponsor the event. I was thankful for that. It was nice to know that when we do, our company gives back in the community quite a bit. So it helped defray costs that they would have had for the event. And we talked to the gentleman, and he's looking forward to this being an annual event. So I got to be at the first, and it was great. And the ROTC was involved, and it was great to see those young people in the uniforms. And so it was a very nicely well done event and well attended. It was the house was full. I think every table had was there might have been a few chairs, but most of the event was I'd say it was over 85 or 90% full. Maybe probably over 90, I'm sure. But anyway, old soldiers, just gotta love them. And I heard some stories last night, and just great. And that's one of the things when I think of the military and I think of the commander in chief, and it is a hard thing to send men into battle. Of course, this was Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and he gave it takes you back. It's hard to believe it's been 34 years ago. But he takes you back to that day and the build up and the convoys down the interstate. My area where I live, we saw them. It was people lining the interstates with American flags, sending those young men off. Some of those didn't come home. Of course, thankfully the death toll was low. But any death is tragic. But it was a low death toll, and they took out the fourth, as he said, the fourth largest military at that time in the world, and they did it in record time under General Norman Schwarzkopf, if you remember him, and the job that they did. And I know people are going to have controversy about whether we should have been there or not, but I don't want to go there. I just want to say, for a soldier who does his duty, he was, he was there, and he knows what went on, and others like him, and the speed at which we got across that desert, and we took out a madman, or at least slowed him down at that time, and you really debilitated his military, which was very large tanks. We destroyed lots of tanks in that battle, and I think about 30,000 troops. I mean, it was not good on their side, but they were, they moved into Kuwait, and people say it's about oil and money and all that. Sure, there's that aspect of it. For a soldier, what they knew they were doing was liberating a country. I do want to say real quick before I go into the weekend news. Along with that, I read the book about. It was I can't remember his name. I need to look it up. There was a book that was written from the Iraqi Air Force general's perspective. He was a Christian at the time, and he didn't want to do. He was just a leader of men, and he didn't want to do anything bad. And it's a great book. I want to go into all of it, but he talked about how he some of the early things of the war and even captures and stuff, and how he shielded them from at points even his own. He could have been killed. He actually was not demoted, but he was never promoted again, and he was never. He was removed from lead command. He was still involved, but because he kept. Oh, you had Uday and Kusay, and they were both monsters, but one of them was worse than the other one, according to him. And he came in there to kill the American pilot that had crashed, and they had him there, and I think they had a British pilot, and he come in there to kill him, and he stood and he didn't tell the Sodom people, he didn't tell the Hussein boys, I call them. He didn't tell them no. I mean, that was certain death, but he reminded him that if we did that, that would go bad for Iraq, and that it was against the Geneva Convention. He didn't die that day, but he was demoted. Now, during the initial parts of the war, he was laying in his bunk. He was right outside the command center. He was directing. Of course, they didn't have a great Air Force, but he was, directing return fire and all that. But he believed that the Lord got him up out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning to go check on things that were going on. And as he left that room, we put a missile in his bed, and he knows that the Lord protected him. There was a couple other things he did I want to mention. One of them was Saddam Hussein wanted to strip 747s down and just load them up with all kind of any kind of bomb, explosive devices they could think of, and fly them into Saudi Arabia. He wanted to hurt Saudi Arabia because he saw them as working with the West, and he wanted to attack Israel. So his plan was to load all these 747s up and just kamikaze mission them into Riyadh and other places. And this Iraqi general, he was there, but he was a Christian. He said he was tasked with that. So he drew up the plan, but then he in the room with Saddam Hussein, all the other generals. You've seen those scenes where they all sit around their, olive drab green, uniforms or whatever. He would say he had to tell Saddam Hussein the plan, and he gave him the plan, but he said I wouldn't do this plan. And of course, Saddam Hussein became infuriated and wanted to know why. I mean, he could have died at this point easily because they had a snap. They were very temperamental, and they would kill anybody at the drop of a hat, and they'll drop the hat. But he told them that the excellent missile defense that they had, Saudi Arabia, and was being supported by the Americans. He's talking about Patriots and all that. He said all the planes would be shot out of the sky and the mission would fail. And Saddam Hussein just blew a gasket. So they decided not to go forward. He was ready to do this. And they were supposed to do it again, but before they could ever do anything like that, they weren't able. They were involved in war. But it was a fascinating look on the inside of that. So last night brought back a lot of those memories as I was going through this honoring of these veterans, and to see the age on them, which is age on me. I remember how young I was when it started, but it was a great event, and so that juxtapose that backdrop against the things that happened over the weekend, starting Friday with Zelensky, the little deputy I call him from Ukraine, who was in the White House there, and it all blows up, and I'm sure all of you have seen that by now, and if not, I would encourage you to go watch it. It's 5 minutes. It's unlike there's never been another 5 minutes like that in a meeting like that in that place that I can ever recall. They might have been privately, but not publicly for all the public to see and all the press. And of course, then Zelensky, who they were supposed to have the post, they were supposed to sign the mineral deal. They were supposed to have the press conference afterwards, where they both stand at the podium and talk. That was all canceled. Zelensky proceeds, and it was a great get by hello Jake. It was a great get by Fox News to get the interview with him. I have not reviewed all that, some of it. I want to do that today. Again, we were on the air last night. I mean, I was at the event, came straight into the show, and I have not had time to review that. But I've looked at some clips and some excerpts from that, and I mean, he knows he's messed up. But he one of the things he said in that interview was that he believed that the relationship, he was asked point blank, Mr. President, do you think the relationship is too damaged? He did not think it was, but he said it was not good on both sides. He also took the time in that interview to thank the American people and the president and vice president, and I think he was, counting down to even those people, little girls selling lemonade on the side of the street. I'm joking, because he was trying to thank everybody because he was challenged by that on that point by Vice President JD Vance, because he said, "You've not said thank you one time." And of course, he's trying to, say what he was trying to do. He didn't like the fact that he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to deal in the way that it's going to happen. He doesn't want that. But he was trying to say that, Russia will lie, Putin will lie. You can't trust him, and it won't be a ceasefire. Well, that wasn't the time to do that. Even if all of that's true, and he's right on it, you cannot come into the Oval Office and you cannot disrespect the administration that way. And for people that they're having their heads are blowing up and they think the president's horrible and JD Vance is horrible and how they treated a foreign dignitary and all that, I would just question people on their look at it this way. If you invited someone into your house, you invited someone into your house, and even if you say something that they don't really care for, and they started really, ripping and challenging you in your home, I mean, you'd invite them to leave. We all would. I think most people would. If some people don't, I don't know if I don't know who you are, but you just when you're in someone else's house, you abide, complete respect, and you abide by the rules of the house, and you're always welcome to leave. But in this case, decorum, said, that there's a couple things they could have done there, but President Trump said he wanted the people to see it, which I respect that. Even though it was hard to watch, it's ugly. I think some people said that Zelensky baited Vance. I think that if anything, they baited him because they want him out of the way. He's an obstacle, and he does not want to play ball on the cessation of war because he wants everything his way, and that's just not going to happen without going to World War III and forcing Russia out, potentially World War III. I don't see that. Now, there's still an element of that could happen. I'll come back to that in a minute. But at that moment, with all the press there and everything, his job was to shake his head and say, "Thank you, Mr. President." Behind the scenes, he could have said, "Listen, all the things he had. I think Putin will lie. I don't like this." And sign the deal, which is good for both. A way for them to pay back debt. It's a way to continue to get arms shipments because that was all going to be a part of that ability to get some ammunition, some more resources that you always run out of. It was a way to get that, and and even money. There would have been some money, but now there could be things coming back that would help with that. He blew that, and you can see if you've not seen it, you need to look at the. I was watching I did watch this before I went to the event. It was all I had time for. It was a gentleman who has worked Washington for over 20 years, and he just couldn't believe that Zelensky did that. He said, "I've never seen nothing like that." And he showed a picture. They've now shown video of it of the ambassador of Ukraine with her head in her hand. She, just realizing how bad this was going and not good for her country. I mean, of course, she can't do anything. And it was a complete meltdown. So, I have not verified. I heard that Marco Rubio was the one that invited him to leave the White House. So here's the fallout. Today, it's the fallout. And last night I got on and spoke a little bit about it. Today, I wanted to do a little more. Tomorrow night on SFP News Live, Sunday night, we have close to a 2-hour show or right at a 2-hour show. And I'm hoping I'm going to show some excerpts from that tomorrow night. And we're going to talk a little bit more and get the updated news of where this can go. I don't anticipate through the weekend much will happen. There'll probably be some damage control, which is already occurring, I'm sure. I've seen a little bit, about it. But I anticipate by Monday they will be something going forward. First of all, the deal is too good. If he's got any kind of sense, or he'll be forced out. The deal is too good for Zelensky to pass up, to be able to continue the relationship with the minerals, and eventually, I mean, it puts him on a better footing, and it keeps everybody, with some help there and moving towards an end to this war. It gives him a little time. I would say a little time. I would say he has a lot of time. But if he doesn't do the deal, and it's a good deal for America. I mean, let's face it, let's be honest. Let's look at the backdrop of this. As the president said, we don't have all those things that you have. Well, two, we may have some of them. We're never going to be able to dig for them here in the way, and maybe they do have more, but due to restrictions here, and just wouldn't get full support. We can't even get a pipeline built across the thing from the Dakotas, much less doing that. So the rush is to get to those resources and make a deal, strike a deal. It's actually ingenious by the administration, because I'm going to tell you, the North Koreans would like to get that, the Chinese would love to get that, and of course, the Russians would love to get a hold of that. If they've already got a portion of the country and some of the energy anyway, Putin has been for some time. And again, I'm going to talk about a couple things today that have not been talked about. It's just been sort of forgotten or put to the side. And you really have to look at the long game on any of this stuff. The short term, there's these sparks that happen, and it does tell a story, but the bigger story is going on for a long time. And that bigger story is that Putin is trying to solidify or control all of the energy in Europe. I mean, we've already seen the stuff he's done with the gas lines and other things. He doesn't want NATO on his border. Certainly he didn't care for Zelensky. Certainly they wanted to take the Donbass back and keep Crimea and all. Certainly all that. But the backdrop to all that is money. It is the power, and he has the power right now to shut a lot of Europe off to gas supplies, and it's making him a lot of money. They've also found, even with the restrictions on buying from Russia versus the United States, we can't do that. It's a restricted nation for us to do business with right now. The oil, they found other buyers for it, Korea or China, whoever. And he's making a killing off the energy. Well, you take in the minerals, and what do they want? They even said it. The president said the lithium. I mean, my goodness, in America, yes, but in my state, Georgia, there are battery manufacturers going up all the way down the I-75 corridor, massive ones. There's one that's been put on hold, and I think part of that is just it's so volatile right now of can they get the stuff. So that is a huge. They cleared the land. I don't know where. I haven't checked lately where that's at, but they put it on hold. But you have companies like Q Cells and others that have been already built big facilities for solar and battery and stuff, and they need the lithium and stuff, to make these things. And so this area is filled with it, and would be able to get that out. So my belief is, just guessing, that what I want to say before I go to that is that this relationship between Russia and Iran is more than just a military. Thank you, Jake. We had a good time having you, brother, last night on the show. And thank you for what you're doing, helping us with the stream there. You're a blessing. Um, the, uh, the relationship between Iran and Russia is one of financial, yes, and military. Iran makes most, if not all, the drones that are being used by Russia in Ukraine, uh, and they're building these things left and right. But they for a long time, the Iranians have been a partner in working with Russia on this energy sector too, up through that Middle East and gas and stuff like that. So that's what he's doing. I mean, there is a method to his madness, and he is a madman. But there is a method to that. I believe it goes back to not only control and being a big player in the world, a superpower. He wants all that. He wants everybody to fear Russia and respect, but he wants money and power. And he wants a way to hurt Europe so that those nations would think twice about attacking him. So, in the end of all that, first of all, I think a deal will get done. Nobody wants continued. Well, I'll come back to that in a minute too, because I think there are a couple of nations that are itching to, but most nations in the world want this thing over. And you're going to hear a lot of saber rattling about the the Ukrainians and Russia invaded, and they're hitting Trump real hard about that right now because of his statement about how he started it. But what Trump's talking about is he goes back, and the things that were happening all the way back to 2012, 2014, and leading up is where he's coming from with that. Yes, we know that Russia invaded, but the why all this happened, and it's debatable. It's absolutely debatable. I'm not saying I'm right on that. I'm just saying there are aspects of that that go all the way back to previous administrations and some dirty things. We've seen that through all these investigations that have been going on, and we helped to turn over the leader of a government, and this guy's been nothing but a nightmare in that relationship um, for America. Honestly, it's really not been good. It's cost us a lot as we have supported as Biden through full support of Biden. And there is the potential, as you said, you are threatening World War III here. It's a dangerous game. It is a dangerous game. I mean, anytime you're dealing with Russia or China, any of them, it's not good, but especially those two. You don't want a regional conflict in there. And I want to come back because there's regional players that want to get involved. Stupidly, I'll say that. It's absolutely asinine, stupid. But there are some nations that are itching to get in this fight. And I'm really shocked, to be honest, that it hasn't happened so far, them being in the theater of war. I'm really shocked. Wet the whistle there and a little coffee too. Hope you got some good coffee this morning on Saturday. Here's to you. Southern Fried Coffee's on the way too. Not going to be much longer. We're going to see that. We'll be making moves this very week to start that process. So Southern Fried Coffee, different blends. I love my coffee. So we'll start drinking Southern Fried Coffee on the show. Right now, I think that's Folgers, and it's good. So we're gonna get good as well. A couple of nations, and then a third that I want to throw in. Now we know that the North Koreans have been sending soldiers to fight in with Russia in Ukraine. There was the story about faces and fingerprints being burnt off dead soldiers so that they couldn't identify them. I don't know the full reason of why they would do that. But that's the brutality of what happens in this theater of war. War is hell, yes. But this theater of war, you're dealing with a lot of different brutalities that can and will occur, and there's been brutality on both. Russians coming in have been brutal to those that they've come across in those towns. Again, I want to get back to some things that have not been mentioned. The energy's one. Nobody's talked about the energy. The broader conflict has not been talked about as much. Poland has built up their military, and there's some warmongers in Poland that want to maybe get involved against Russia. There's a lot of old history there. Lithuania is another one that's talked about some stuff. There's some nations there that have closed their border to Russia, and this limited trade and this thing is heated up a little bit. And the British have been markedly against us right now against this, and they're throwing their full support and let Europe do it. I'm all for it if they want to do that. Although they're risking again World War III. The British have always been they've been hurting for a time because of the fall of the British Empire. There's many in that government there's many who don't, but there's many who still, especially the military, they want to flex their muscles a little bit too and show their influence. And you had the person, the MP or whoever it was from over there saying there needs to be a new leader of the free world, besides obviously President Donald J. Trump. Lady, it's not going to happen, okay? Just because we decide not to engage anymore inside this theater of war and we want to see it ended, if you think your weak leaders over there are going to replace Donald J. Trump as the leader of the free world in the United States of America, you are an idiot. It's not going to happen. So, but anyway, they're bumping their gums. So you got Britain being involved, Poland, Lithuania, Belarus, who's a puppet vassal state of, in a large way, to Russia. They house Air Force there. They troops. I mean, I think they've even fired some drones and missiles, some from there. Not as much as I thought it would this far in, but this guy's a total loser. He so wants to be in the battle. He's like he can taste it, and so he's a little bit of a powder keg too. He's not a major player. I don't think they have a major military, although they do have one. He's basically going to let Big Brother Russia take care of him. But that's another activity that goes on there. I want to go back a little bit. Again, talking about things, the fallout from this. I think a deal will be done. I do think President will push really hard for the ceasefire. That's going to be on the table, and hopefully that will happen. There are some things that fall out of this that it's not going to be easy answers. And it's not been talked about in a long time. If there's been some press on it, I've missed it. One of the things early on in the war that the Russians did, I mean, obviously, their method of war in this, early on, was, to get all the equipment there, they tried to take Kyiv. That fell out badly. But the Russians, they just batter you. They just batter you. They just drop drones and bombs and stuff. And basically, they destroy your infrastructure. And a lot of the Donbass has been destroyed. There's those bigger towns, small towns destroyed. There's just nothing there. I mean, you've seen the videos. You're fighting over. Oh, I froze a little bit. I don't know what happened, but they froze over, and I did freeze, so I don't know what happened there. So if you can still hear me, I'm going to keep talking, and maybe that'll pop back. But that's not happened before in a long time, so may have to come out. But I still see the clock counting, but my video froze, so maybe it's just my webcam. We may try to reboot that. It's just low technology. Let's see if we can come back and free that up. So I'm not really sure what happened. I'm going to keep talking. If it doesn't, maybe you can hear me. If you don't see me, you can still hear me. But I want to continue this, and we may have to drop out and come back in. But what I wanted to say was, before unfortunately froze there, is that and there we go. It's trying to. I think like we've had a little problem with StreamYard, so I think it's been a little iffy on some of it. So apologize for that, and I'll keep going. So that doesn't happen all the time, but we typically have pretty good results. My stream is excellent in Podbean, so it's not Wi-Fi or something. It's just StreamYard is freezing a little bit, or the webcam. So I'm gonna keep talking. Apologize if that's happening. I'm just gonna keep going because I do. If it don't clear, it don't clear. But we'll try here in a minute. But what I wanted to say is that early on in the war with Ukraine was all the children that were taken back into Russia. Has anybody heard of this lately? I've not heard of this in a long time. Staggering numbers of children were taken out of Ukraine into Russia. Now, there's varying accounts of how many that were taken out, but there are thousands upon thousands of children. Some of those children, it is believed, have been given to Russian families to raise. They were very small, babies, small children. They were given to Russians to raise as Russians. He basically stole, not hostages. They have some of that, I'm sure, but they've killed most of the Ukrainians. They've not taken many hostages that way. But they took these children and they took them into Russia, and they're going to be teaching them Russian, and they're raising them as Russian. So they're taking Ukrainian children. They will raise them to hate Ukraine. They're very small. They're not going to know their background. They're not going to know their family, or if they're very young, they'll just never see them again. Some of them may be taken for other nefarious reasons. I don't have any evidence of that, but that is absolutely not being talked about. And that's horrifying to me. I mean, it could be anywhere from 20 to 200,000. There's a lot of kids that have been taken out. This was a planned thing. This wasn't just all of a sudden they killed parents like, oh, we got a few kids we need to figure out. They didn't call up the Ukrainians and say, hey, we've got some kids over here, a flag of truce on the battlefield. We need to exchange these, or we'll take them and put them on an airplane flight to some other country that'll receive them and get them back to you. We don't want the kids. No, they took the kids. They wanted these kids. And this is going to be outside of the loss of life, which is horrible. This may be even be worse than that, because dead, you're not suffering onward. It's horrible. But these children have been ripped from their families as they were overran in the quickness that the Russians were moving through Ukraine. And they have been stolen. And it's not just a few dozen. There's thousands upon thousands of them. And they've been taken into Russia to be made Russian citizens. Wow. And I've not heard one stinking jackleg thing about it in a long time. For a while, and there are people working on it. Now, I know there's organizations, but it's very hard and very difficult. I mean, you got to get them out of Russia. So I think there were actually teams of people, secret agents, if you will, trying to slip into Russia or using sources there to find out where some of these kids were and just basically take them back. I mean, you're not going to knock on the door and say, "Excuse me, I want this child. He belongs in Ukraine." So you're basically paying people to go in, be spies, and go in. They're basically extraction squads. It's kind of like when you have someone that's been taken into a cult or has been taken into an Islamic, area. They've been held there and you're forced to cook and clean and have babies. It happens. It's sad. Families have had to do this of young girls who didn't understand the ramifications of what they were being married into. They were being given gifts, everything seemed fine. They're in America, and all of a sudden they get married, and hey, let's go visit the family, and they get them out of the country, and then they just become a slave. And families have hired these extraction units to go in and take them back. Very dangerous game. In many cases, have been successful. And the early, hopefully it's earlier rather than later. Well, they've done some of that with these kids, so it's not something you're going to promote in open air. You're not going to talk about it. Well, we pulled 5 kids out. We got, you know, we there are organizations working on it, but I have not heard anything in a long time. So even if you get a ceasefire and you get an end to the war, there's the ongoing, and I would not blame, and who wouldn't, who would blame the Ukrainians for being mad about this? So I would hope it's not been talked about. I would hope that part of this deal is these kids get returned. My gut tells me that they're going to be forgotten. And this is going to be long term. This is going to be one of the saddest things that ongoing, and the stories are going to come out of that. I mean, it's limited to get some news out of Ukraine even while this war is going on. There's some things, and I think some people are afraid to talk. There's not a lot of there's not a lot of communication with people. I mean, I think they're a little scared of their own government. Let's be honest. A lot of them being, and Vice President J.D. Vance brought this up that they're taking people off the streets, forcing them into vans, and putting them in, forcing them in the military. And they're getting younger and older in that spectrum because they're running out of military age men and they're using wounded and they're spread out. They're having a hard time holding that line, which runs basically from the border with Russia all the way over to the Dnieper River. There's a line that's jagged through there as the Russians continue to try to find the soft spots, and they flank the Ukrainians. Then the Ukrainians have to, recommit their forces and basically retreating and pulling back. It's brutal fighting. It's not easy on the Russians because they're being blown to bits too. So Ukrainians are putting up one heck of a fight, and the President Trump was right to say and to announce the bravery of these troops because they're absolutely have fought their rear ends off. And I still remember the Fox News paid general to come on, and there were others like him that said that war would not last 2 months. 60 days, the Russians would roll them up. I'm sorry, sir, you were wrong. You you had wrong on a couple of counts. You're wrong on the resolve of the Ukrainian military, and you were wrong to think that the Russian military was going to roll with the speed and precision that the Desert Storm veterans did across the deserts of Iraq. Not the same army, Bob. And so it is now I call it a slog. It's just it's artillery, other weapons they can shoot across. I mean, they're dug in, they're entrenched. It's tanks as well. Although Russia has lost one heck of a lot of tanks in this due to the javelins and other things that the Ukrainians have gotten a hold of. Russians control the air for the most part, but some of those have been shot out of the sky, helicopters and planes, through other, pieces of equipment that we have gotten into Ukrainian hands. So the summation of all that is it's, where do we go? Well, I think, it just can't keep going on. So you have to have a resolution. You have to have a ceasefire, a cessation of fighting. My belief is, again, I do not believe that the Russians will give up the Donbass. They may pull back some, and let's face it, there are mines all the way across that region. Even if you try to advance, both sides have mined so heavily, it's slow going because they have put so many mines there. It will take decades to re-inhabit some of those areas due to the dangers of mines. They'll have to really go in and do that. I would anticipate, and it's not like you're going to have a Maple Street that rolls into, Sunflower Street, and the Russians are on one side and the Ukrainians the other. There's going to be a no man's land. There's going to be a demilitarized zone, and you just don't, you don't come between, you don't go in between that. So some people are never going to get their towns back. They're never going to have. I mean, it's gone. It's just the structures are gone mostly anyway, and it's mined, and they're just going to have to relocate. And the Russians will pull back, and I say pull back. There'll be some sort of a line that will be agreed upon, and the Russians, who have already been building up in the Donbass, in that I can't think of the name of the town. Uh, it was the one on the coast that they just totally annihilated. And remember, some of the Ukrainians were trapped in that power plant, I think it was, and they were trying to get them out of there. They just obliterated that. But I've heard they've been rebuilding it. Well, why? Because they're going to inhabit it. Russians are going to live there. They're not going to leave. It's not going to happen. Zelensky don't have the muscle to make them leave. The world is not wanting to put troops on the ground, except for a couple, three that I mentioned that seems like they indicate that they kind of want to. The Brits may still just want to work as Ukraine as a proxy to inflict damage on Russia. I don't think any nation is upset that Russia suffered loss because that diminishes their ability somewhat for the short run anyway. It'll take some time to build up their tank fleets and all that, and all the things they've lost and manpower. So I think they enjoy doing that. I think that was Biden's plan, and you get to test new military equipment out on the battlefield. War generates more debt, which they wanted. I mean, but Ukraine can't. And here's the question: if I think Ukraine's going to be needy for a long time. They don't have the resources to pay their government, their salaries. We've been paying for that. Even their pensions, folks, their pensions in the government have been paid by the American taxpayer. Some cities are left intact. They still have some trade. The Russians did not take Odessa. I think that's called that city, Odessa, and that's where they did let, for the most part, they've let those grain shipments and other things go through. So they are making money, but they don't have the resources that they had. So they need this deal on the minerals because that could also mean money. It's paying off debt, but could also generate loans and continued money coming in to keep the government, paying salaries. And I would say probably there's some people that aren't getting paid right now because of the cutoff of the funds. So it'll dry up pretty quick. There's going to need to be a rebuilding on the Ukrainian side. There are towns and missile damage, which I know they're probably trying to work on, but they're going to need support in that. Some of those towns have been just, the apartment buildings and stuff, hospitals, shopping centers have been damaged greatly by the ongoing. And just recently, there was an all-night barrage by Russia. It's not like they just firing one or two shots. They still do the volley where hundreds come into the nation and inflict damage. Of course, Russia targets population areas. That's what they do. They do target energy sectors. They do target military, but a lot of what they target, because they're trying to break the resolve of the Ukrainians and the people, is they hit apartment buildings, hospitals, shopping centers. Places where large populations would be at any one time. So they're trying to inflict a fear factor into that kind of takes the drive out of the Ukrainians to want to continue. Another thing to consider is the Donbass, especially down around Crimea. A lot of Russian-speaking citizens. So in those areas where there are still Russians or people living there, they're probably and have been in some cases not, but in many cases they're very sympathetic to the Russians. They want to live under Russian rule. They've said that. So they're mainly Russian-speaking. But it's still, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's another element to the ongoing battle or the conflict is that those areas are Russian speaking and they want to remain a part of Russia, which I think is going to happen. The Donbass is an area that keeps them away from the Russian border proper. So you can't put NATO there if they're sitting there. So he's done that. He takes over energy, which he wants. That's another thing that he drives for. I suspect he's going to try to hold on to that nuclear reactor. It's one of the largest in Europe, which will be bad for the Ukrainians. And of course, it's great for the Russians. And they'll have that whole huge slice of that country to be able to put military in, to be able to mine, to be able to move people into to live, access to the ocean, all that there. They can put more of their fleet up through there. That will happen, and Ukraine will become smaller, but still there, and will learn how to go forward. I think without Zelensky, I think he's going to be forced out in some way. I don't know who will do the forcing. I think the president's doing a long way going towards that now. But at some point, as he said, it's not going to end good for you. And and I think that's what he's saying. I think they've asked this guy to move on because he said he was willing to do it if Russia would leave the land. So it's obvious they've asked him to leave. I don't think Putin and him can. Of course, you put negotiators in a room, but I don't think Putin wants peace with that guy. But he is willing to have peace against Ukraine. He wants Zelensky gone. I think that'll happen. I don't know that he'll come to the United States, but who's to say? I've heard he has property here in the United States that he paid for, probably with our money. But I would suspect that he will probably go to somewhere in Europe and he'll have a posh, place to live with plenty of money and security for the rest of his life, and him and his wife and whoever else. I don't remember if they have kids, but I think they're going to have to get out of Ukraine, out of power and out of Ukraine. This has happened before, and I think it will happen again. So I just think that that's going to happen. Those are the things that I would think that you could look at right now and say, pretty sure that some of these are going to happen. Eventually, Russia's going to want to get back into the world, the economic systems of the world, even though they've still made money. They found a way around this. Uh, it's just better for business. Russia wants to be, they want to be involved that way. And I think if they can do this in a way they save face, they don't have to. I mean, because what is your claiming power here in the 3 years of pure hell for the Russians if you leave fully? What do you have? And you got to look at it that way. I'm not saying it's right, but what do you have? What does Russia have after 3 years? Well, they got all them kids, my gosh. But outside of that, what do they have? If they were to give up all the land and go back into Russia, they got a lot of dead Russian soldiers, a heck of a lot of them. I mean, they're flying into Moscow all the time and being transported out to, funeral homes and cemeteries. I mean, that's what's happening. And so, you can't brag about that. You can say you defended motherland, but you didn't have to. You invaded. He could say, I kept NATO off the doorstep. A lot of Russian people would probably appreciate that, to be honest. Uh, you could say that you've limited the Ukrainian leader. If he's removed, you could claim that. Well, we got him out. And you could say that if you stay, you could say that you gain minerals, power, more real estate, a buffer for the border of Russia. You could claim all that, and I think that's what will happen. In any way, because Crimea is been kind of out there. They have that little land, they have the bridge there. They would have more access to Crimea as well. Think about this. If you come all the way up the Donbass, I wish I had a map up, and you come from Crimea, which is to Russia, they have the bridge, which has been hit before by the Ukrainians. Uh, you have of course ships that can take you back and forth, but you don't have a lot of land. You don't have a land bridge except you have a bridge. But if you go up the Donbass, you go up far enough, you touch Russia again. So you would have a way to continue to have people drive there and deliver goods and services, apart from the bridge. Because the people in Crimea are trapped. If that bridge is hit, they're stuck. They can't get out unless it's on a ship. So it looks as though he'll take this corridor. It'll attach to Russia. It's ocean, but then there's land. He'll have that. He'll have the NATO can't get to his border because they own that on that side. They have Belarus there, and they would have more places they could build and develop, and the resources and put military things there. They could keep, Ukraine from getting, doing much. They could, they could threaten them. They could, well, do it again. We'll be back. Uh, but what the world gets is a cessation of a hostility that continues to go on. The threats of World War III, and you get to claim a foreign victory, foreign diplomacy victory, if you're the president, and you focus then on the Middle East and the China deal, and you kind of you keep an eye on this one, but it would be sort of settled for Ukraine. You stop your people from dying. That's a big one. You stop your people from dying. The Russians as well. You stop your people from dying. You have agreements that are set that are agreed that he's not going to fire Russia, that being not firing drones and stuff into the, because that can't happen. So you would stop all the terror from the skies, and that would, that would be a victory in itself. Ukraine could start industry. People could invest. American businesses could invest into Ukraine and build companies there, and it would be a help to both. There's things that can happen, and if NATO wanted to have, because Russia wouldn't like it, but if it was far enough away from the border, they could probably set up some sort of a base there or something just to fly in and out and have they do that anyway, I'm sure, but you could get a lot of things gained and then sort of quieten that region down. There's one other thing when I think about it. You remember early in the war? Now, early in the war, before the Merc leader, if you can remember his name, the one that went against Putin and said he was headed towards Russia with his men, and he got told to stop and turn around, which he did. And a lot of people believe what was happening is the Russians told him, if you go to Moscow, you're going to lose anyway, but we'll kill every member of your family associated with you people. I mean, they all have family there. We know who you are. We'll kill your mamas. We'll kill your daddies. We'll kill your brothers and sisters, your family. We'll annihilate, and we'll put some of them in slave labor camp. That's what was told. Why would a guy stop? He thought he could actually do that. It was the stupidest move he could ever have. This guy was no good either. He was a horrible guy, evil. I'm not saying he deserved what he got, but you had all of those people, and you had the Chechens. You don't hear much about that anymore either. Remember the Chechens, those death squads? That's quieting down. Some of the most brutal. Oh my gosh, they're brutal, brutal. But the Russians are bad. The Chechens are worse. They all got the beards. I mean, they all look like they all came from the same tree. We'll just say that. I'm not meaning that in a disrespectful way, but they all have that same look, the big beards and everything. But remember the Chechen hit squads were sent in, and there were squads that were sent to get Zelensky. They were going to kill him. Even Zelensky talked about this. They moved him around. They had different bunkers and stuff that they put him in. Haven't heard about that much in a while either. Zelensky's going to need security for the rest of his life. He knows that. That's another reason why he probably doesn't want to step down. I mean, nobody likes to lose and step down anyway. But he already put aside elections. He was, I can't say for sure. He probably would have been voted out. I think the people there are pretty sick of him. A lot of them, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. They need to have elections there. That would be a win. And the Ukrainians could decide, hey, this is who I want this is who I want to lead my nation. When we think about, the leadership there. I mean, it's really been a mess over there for a long time. And so they need to have some fair elections, if that's possible. But they need to have that. They need to have some elections where they can elect their leader and just start damage control and start moving on. It's going to be painful for a long, long, long time. You can't have 3 years of war, brutal war. You cannot. There's people going to be damaged for a long, long time. But that's where I think it will kind of happen. Zelensky's going to need protection. If he could stay in power, I'm sure he wants to do that. I just don't know if that's going to be on the table, so to speak. And then lastly, I will say, if you think about in this section of the program, if you think about If you think about Europe, and what does Europe do here? Do they continue to give in to this guy's war, seeing it as a greater need for the world to deal with Russia here and there, or does that conflict grow? It's a dangerous game they're playing, and I think the Germans and the Brits need to be real careful, and they don't need to kick America to the side just because they want to continue. Uh, you got to keep the warmongers down. And what's up with Germany? They've been more moderate for a while. They wanted to be they shut down all their nuclear reactors and they were going to go to all this alternative energy. I think that's died on the vine. No pun intended, but they have started, I believe, thinking about cranking back up the nuclear reactors because again, their energy supply sucks, and they should have saw this coming and they didn't. So where does that go? And I get it. People don't want Russia to have access to those systems and energy, and they want to inflict damage, but at some point you have to end it. So that blow up in the White House, to summate all that, the blow up in the White House is, I think, it's key in many ways. I think it actually will help in the long run. It put Zelensky in his place. He was wrong for what he did. And I'm not saying it's good to see those things happen in that setting. I don't think it is, but you know what? We get it. Nobody's damaged. We're okay. Americans are fine, and they want to have people act like how horrible it is for the country. I think most of the country is happy because, especially those who voted for the Trump administration, because they are mainly the ones who don't like this guy Zelensky, and they want this thing over with. If you go online and read some of the comments that people are talking about on certain sites, you will see how much that they could just absolutely care less about Ukraine. Then there are some who care about Ukraine, but they want us out. So there are people who do care to the point they want to keep going with the war. Some of them even went over there and joined. That's another thing. Early on in the war, there were some warriors in America that said, "Hey, let's go help the Ukrainians. We'll make a little money. We get to fight again. Cause for freedom." When they got over there and saw the pure hell and brutality of what was really going on the ground, they were looking to get the heck out, and you don't hear much about that. And honestly, what the Ukrainians and Russians have done is offer people money that are poor around the world to come fight, and they go fight because they're desperate for support. So there were people out of Central and South America that were going and joining up in the battle. I don't remember the numbers, but they were doing it, and it was purely for the paycheck. And their families were like, you can't do, you'll get killed. It's like, well, I got to do something. I can't make it here. And so they were guaranteed to get so much money. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of those are coming home in body bags because the losses are the attrition is so bad in that war right now. So, absolutely. Well, let's take a quick break and we'll pop back in and we'll continue on here for a bit. And stay with the Southern Fried Podcast. Just by way of announcement, we do have, there's no show scheduled tonight, but first thing in the morning at 8 a.m., I do have a morning ministry show before I go to church called A Sunday in the Word. We're on for about an hour at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow afternoon, probably will be on with a show, I would guess around 3 to 4. I don't have that set yet. But tomorrow night at 9 p.m. we go live with the news desk again. Monday morning show at 6 to 7. That's standard. And we have Mama Said. That's also another one. And hey, Spartan, I'll get you a comment in just a second. And then we're going to have our either Monday or Tuesday. My co-host for the new Southern Fried Racing Hour was sick, and he needed he needed some time. He didn't want to make me sick either, which I appreciate that. So we're going to make that program up, and we'll come back with another one as well. So we'll get back on track. By the way, for those that didn't see last night, I haven't gotten trading cards since I was a kid, and these I'm not going to open. I don't think I will. I'm not trying to look for value. Maybe I will open them. I don't know. But the gentleman who's over the Legion, he buys these up, and they put out these Desert Storm trading cards. And it says Desert Storm Victory Series, has a tank and an airplane and a soldier on the front. It says Coalition for Peace. And there's 8 trading cards and a sticker. No gum. Remember the old trading cards with the gum? And he gives these out. And I thought that was cool. So I'm still, but more so, and I'm not, I am a kid at heart, but I think more so because of the cards. I wanted to see, just step back in history. And what I wanted to say right before I go to break is when I got hired into the job I have, uh, the Desert Storm started me working at my company. I was being hired while war reports were going on, and I actually helped to make sandbags at my company that were being sent over there to help with the war effort for a time. We were on the tail end of that, but we were still making them. And so that was kind of neat. So should I open them? I think I will. It's kind of nice to put up on a shelf though, but I'm kind of curious of who's on the card. Is it soldiers? Is it generals? It's a mystery. So I may have to look for some of those and see if I can get some to put up and some to put up. But I love the military. Uh, let's see. Let me get to Spartan's comment real quick before I go to break. It won't be gone long. I'm not going to be gone 10 minutes. I just need to take a quick break and run an ad. Let's see. I wonder if the Zelensky clown show was about distracting for the lack of Epstein files honesty. There's that too. I'll talk about that on the other side of the break. That's definitely in play as well. Surely there's some of that. This has been also. He's talking about clown show. Um, that's also a clown show, and it's unbelievable. So we'll definitely talk about it. A lot of U.S. military people ran away from Ukraine after they realized they had no air support, and Russia did. An absolute perfect and very factual statement. True. These people have no air. Russia controls the skies. I'll talk about that on the side of the break. What's happened to the pilots, the F-15s and stuff that were donated? Of course, everybody knew they were not going to get an Air Force up and going. We'll talk about that on the side of the break. And yes, people do always want to find the winning side. Excellent comments. Excellent comments. I salute you. Absolutely. You always we don't always agree, and that's fine. We're not always alike, but we do always enjoy the conversation. And I appreciate you being here. We'll be right back. Let me run a quick ad, and we'll get back in here and wet my whistle. My throat's drying out. I don't want to be coughing and hacking in front of you, but we'll be right back. Let me get to the videos. I'll be right back.
Hey folks, Dave in the AM here with the Southern Fried Podcast and the Cornbread Nation. For many weeks now, me and Rob have been telling you about our affiliation with Dubby Energy Drinks. I've been drinking some of them on the show, and I just got in today the powdered version, and this is the Pond Blom version of this. And hey, I tell you that it gives you the focus and the energy without the jitters or the crash. There's no sugars, no fillers, no artificial dyes. So get you some Dubby today. Use the promo code Southern Fried, and you'll get 10% off each and every order. Not only can you get the energy drinks, but you can also get some cool merch items. In fact, soon we're going to have a hat to show you as an example of some of those things. There's shirts and other things you can get as well as containers to mix up the powder and the water into that you can carry with you. We appreciate your support of the Southern Fried Podcast and also of Dubby Energy Drinks. We'll see you again soon. Take care. This is David the AM with the Southern Fried Podcast. We are now an affiliate of Podbean. Podbean is an audio platform which helps you get your voice out there. You can go online and go live from your very phone that you use. You don't have to have a lot of special equipment. It's nice to have a studio, but it's expensive. You can do those things from your phone. Hey, I was a listener of Podbean before I even became a podcaster. Maybe you've thought about being one. There was a time when I didn't think about being a podcaster, but think about it. You've got things to share. It could be as simple as baking, or it could be working on a car. The stories are endless that you could come up with to be a podcaster. And there are people out there that want to listen and to your stories and to your shows. And we're thankful for all those that watch and listen to us. Podbean is now an affiliate of the Southern Fried Podcast. Unless you're a business plan, that would be the bottom one. The one on top, use that. You'll get discounts, and also the Southern Fried Podcast benefits in this as well. I love Podbean. They also help launch out to many other audio sites. This saves me time. Time is precious. Time to be on the podcast, time for research, time to be with family, and yes, time to work. Yes, we still work out there in the workforce. So become a podcaster. Use Podbean, and when you use these links, one of them, you will save money, and you'll also help the Southern Fried Podcast. Thanks so much for all your support. Take care. We'll see you soon.
And we are back. Thankful to be here. It is great to be on the podcast today. Saturday, beautiful weather. I hope it's beautiful where you're at. If you're still cleaning up from the snow and stuff, I understand it. And there's some places where it's still very, very cold. So we're not rubbing it in or anything like that. And we're in the southeast, and so the southeast gets warmer a little quicker. So, but it does make you feel good. It gives you that spring fever. You're ready to get out and do some yard work, maybe start a project or finish a project. For me, it'd be finish projects. It is great to be a part of, and there's lots of things that get done because I've been busy podcasting. So, but yeah, Spartan brought up some great points I wanted to add in too, and we'll talk about it in just a second. The role of the vice president in this, it's really quite amazing. I want to get to that more so tomorrow night on the news desk at 9 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to get into some clips. Hopefully, that will happen and look at that a little deeper. Of course, I hope you've been able to watch that. I want to also review the Brett Baer interview in its entirety, and I want to do that. I'll do that today offline and get ready for tomorrow's show. But quite interesting. Spartan had brought up a comment, and there's comments coming out today that that this was an unexpected exchange. Well, yeah, okay, nobody expected it, but maybe there were people who did expect it. But he mentioned in his first comment about the Epstein files. This does overshadow a cloud over that. Not that people's forgotten about it, because they sure haven't. The American people are very disgusted with what happened with that. And it's actually pretty shocking that this went on like it did. First of all, they said, we have the file sitting on Pam Bondi's desk. So they have this file. She's claiming she didn't know all the redactions and there wasn't all of it there. And there's this ongoing fighting internally, all that. Okay, whatever. When you say that, and you say you're going to release the files, and there was also controversy about who they released it to. There were some people that they released those files to, who in turn, I read, tried to put them behind paywalls and make people pay for them, and realized very quickly. So these people are jacklegs, and some of them are well known. I don't know which ones did it, but whoever they are, you're trying to do that and make money off of it. Shame on you. This is not the time to do that. So the 234 or whatever it was pages that were released or whatever, I looked through many of them. There are some redactions. It was some of the worst copying of flight logs or any kind of a paper that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it looked like they on purposely made them as faint as you can see. So sometimes it's really even hard to read it. In some cases, impossible, because they've whited it out so bad. They didn't darken up the print And that's an easy fix on any copier. I mean, come on. So, you know, it's really to the American people, it gets people to thinking that nothing will ever really happen with this, that nobody's going to go to jail. And that's what, people want that and they're shielding. They're shielding. And who's doing the shielding? Well, these are the people that were supposed to be transparent, get everything out in everybody's hands, and let the chips fall where they may. There were a couple, three juicy names that were dropped in that drop, but nothing, there's no evidence. It's just a name, it's just there. And some said, well, President Trump is protecting himself, but he's the one that's led the charge to get them out there, as well as JFK papers and Martin Luther King and whatever else that they're considering. But why in the world would you do it like that? It was the biggest buildup to nothing since the Al Capone safe opening by Geraldo Rivera all those years ago. This was nothing. It was almost as bad as that, where there was nothing in that safe. There's really nothing in this, and this can't be. They've admitted it's not. This can't be the file, and it's certainly. And why? What is the redactions going on? I mean, come on. I mean, if you're going to have a release, do a release, and again, let it go where it goes. So it makes you wonder what's really going to happen. And by the way, I was looking at a map, and Maripol was there's really, you have Maripol and Melitopol. Both of those were coastline cities in southern Ukraine, and were just annihilated, especially Maripol, I believe it was. So that Donbass region, which is a huge swath, which leads all the way down to Crimea, and then of course you have. I wish I had this to show, and I will tomorrow. But you see the connections there, and how imperative it is. Russia would want to hold on to that. And then the encroachment to Kharkov has been intense, and so that's been a real battleground. So that line goes all the way up through there. So it's pretty intense fighting all the way up. And they very well could be. People are on both sides of this. I'm not going to say that that's wrong, because there's all those connections. So this may very well be fact. People are not going to like it because Trump's name is there, but there's definitely some protection going on to some of that. The work of the Mossad, the Epstein connection. There are many who believe that he was using all of that, all of the videos, because they had audio, video of all those interactions. That's the whole reason they were, that was from their side. It was to make money, massive amounts of money, and many believe to blackmail leaders all across the world. And certainly it destroyed the Queen's son, his career, although he should have went to jail, I'm sure. But how far does that go? There's a lot of thoughts about it. And, Trump haters will say, hey, listen, he had connections to Epstein. He was on the plane. Yes. What he did, I can't say. And I can't say for any of them. So we need a little more proof, but this is damaging when you release these files. Sure, there's going to be powerful people, billionaires probably involved here. And how far and deep does it go? So there's a lot of work to keep that restricted from people like me and you to see that. I'm sure that's true as well. That there probably are, I mean, and hey, there's nefarious organizations. What has the CIA done? Is there a CIA connection? Well, there's things we don't know. There's things that people theorize about. So that dark part of the undercurrent of that dark world, that goes on behind the scenes that we very rarely get a glimpse into, which is the playground of the powerful and rich and famous, and it's disgusting, and it's like the 24-hour weddings and for the sheiks. They bring these young girls out, virgin young. I mean, they're not even old enough to be having sexual relations, and they bring them out. They marry them on these multi-million dollar, or even billion-dollar yachts. It's like small cities. They bring them out. They marry them to stay compliant within their faith, and they abuse these girls, and after they're done with them, they divorce them, and then God knows what's happening to them after that. This has been going on for a long, long time. It never gets talked about, but it is their sick and perverted playground that they have. And we were talking about it. Got brought up a little bit last night. The Saudi Arabia connection, which has been, and it's not just one administration. It probably has touched every administration for a long time. Is the Saudi oil money that has been put into politicians' pockets. We certainly know they were a big supporter of the Clinton Foundation. And by the way, what has the Clinton Foundation ever did? I mean, what difference have they made in the world? If they have, say it. I would like to know. Did they spend a bunch of money to help with AIDS research or to help AIDS victims, or what have they done? What was the millions of dollars? I mean, it's their biggest and one of their only clients, I think. What has the Clinton Foundation done? That's a fun deep dive to go into. But the Saudis have been involved, a lot with the West. And of course, this was the whole backdrop to Bin Laden and all the war. As his family was very rich there, he was against this westernization of Saudi Arabia, and he was outcast from his family, or most of them. And he hated Saudi Arabia as much as he hated America, to be honest. And that's why I say Saddam Hussein wanted to hit Saudi Arabia. There are elements within Yemen that would love to hit Saudi Arabia, and this connection to the West there. And of course, we've helped them with the sale of military hardware, some pretty doggone good stuff too. Up to not our elite aircraft, but very close. They've got some of the best, and Israel. That's truth. And Israel's was done in a matter of loans and/or other means to get those in their hands. But those are two countries that have definitely benefited from our military abilities to build aircraft, certainly. And of course, we've kept a military presence there in Saudi Arabia. There are people I know that have worked security for I'm going to loosely call it their green zone, their restaurants, living quarters, and stuff for the Americans that are living and working in Saudi Arabia. And so, and Jake was trying to bring up last night the killing of the media guy or whatever he was. That was sort of I can't remember his title. That was chopped to pieces. And this is a brutal country. It's a brutal country. Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I would think that the Chinese probably have that ability too. If they can get a hold of it, they take it apart, and that's how you learn. I mean, that's why they want to get a hold of stuff like that. Um, I've heard that too. There's a Clinton's mafia connection that executed Epstein. Um, so yeah, you know, but here's the question. Well, they do build their own, but they've stolen plans and stuff from us. Let's go all the way back. Some of the biggest you know, uh, investigations have involved people in the government military giving the Chinese selling that to them. I mean, that has been going on. Haven't heard of it lately, but that was pretty damaging. So they definitely want to get their hands on some of that stuff. But they have been building up their military. They're now building aircraft carriers at a rapid pace. They built up their air force. I mean, they're in a war footing right now. They're building up to be prepared for war. So they're definitely going to be a war that's going to occur. With who? I mean, I certainly think they're going to hit Taiwan. They're planning on it. Okay, I didn't. Poland, for example, does not take apart American fighters. They follow all the rules USA sets, which is pathetic. Well, yes, if you're going to take it apart, take it apart. I mean, it's important to do what you say you're going to do. But Poland just needs not go to war. Now, we've talked about this before, Spartan. Poland needs to stay the heck out of this, or it's going to be a lot smaller Poland. I mean, they need to be happy, you know. Don't worry, be happy, as the song said, and stay out of this. Poland is not ready to take on Russia or anybody else, I think. So they need to be very careful with that. So, all right, let's go into something else while I still have time. This is the first time that I can ever remember in a setting where the president and vice president is involved in anything, unless it was something, a benefit or something they were trying to promote. Maybe it was on the vice president's agenda, something that he really pushed on. Never in a setting like this with a foreign leader has the vice president spoke as much as J.D. Vance did in this meeting. In fact, Trump at one point was being very quiet, just listening. He seemed to encourage the conversation. And the argument was really between J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, and President, I say that, I hate to even say that, but the little deputy, Zelensky, that was really starting here before it went and swung back to Trump and Zelensky. Have you ever seen anything like that? And it's interesting that that was played out like that. There could be several aspects to that. He lets JD get a on a platform that he normally wouldn't have to show what he can do. He lets Vance be the guy who takes on Zelensky and sees if they can prod him or to dress him down as they may have wanted to do, or also set the stage for Trump then to come in and eviscerate this guy, which he did. Why was this allowed to continue to go down this road? And the role that the vice president played in that, to me, is very telling. I don't know why all of it. I mean, it's theories, and I have some, and some others may have them as well. But why was this allowed to happen like that? And people are happy today, and some people are not, that J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, was that pronounced and got that attack. Of course, the things he talked about was that he says, you've not been thankful. You campaigned for our opponent, Kamala, out on the campaign trail, which he should have stayed out of that. I mean, honestly, he should have stayed out of that. And you're being disrespectful. And that, as that broke down, then President Trump stepped in. In fact, until the point that Zelensky said, you will feel differently. You will feel war and all that. That's when Trump exploded. Up till that point, Trump was rather, melancholic. I mean, he's just listening. He always leans his head back a little bit when he's listening and thinking, and he did that as these two really went at it. And what happened with that. So I'm curious about that as well, and to see where that goes out of this. Could he be setting him, helping him to be ready for the next 4 years? That's maybe a small part. I think they were trying to expose the guy. I think they knew this was going on. This guy was not playing ball. He was being a little butt about it, and according to what they wanted to happen. And so he tells him, he dresses him down to kick him out, and that, it may be there could be several things that happen. The Europeans get more involved. America fully pulls back, or I think it forces them back to the table and gets some kind of a deal done. It's not going to happen on Monday, but it could happen pretty quickly. I think the mineral deal will come back. He's going to come. He's going to come back, and he's going to kiss the ring, so to speak. And he's going to get that mineral deal because he knows it's good for both, and Trump knows it's good. So I think they get that done, and then the work will go forward to negotiate the final part. Yes, Spartan. Let me get to your first comment first. According to Ryan Dawson, China has no need to take Taiwan since there's no pro-Chinese party in Taiwan. That's not part of taking power. I would disagree to this point. If you listen to some other people that are attached to the military, they believe the target is the chips. They have some of the best, if not the best, computer chips in the world. And that is the real fight. The island itself, other than the pride of China and not wanting them, they say that's our land and all that, that's a big one. It has been for a long time. But to risk war with the world, would you really want to do that? Well, what they really want, because China wants to grow their economy, and they've had some economic difficulties, but there are 5 plants spread across that island, and there's actually scenarios in which they believe the Chinese would attack to take over that, and take over those chip makers, which would also hurt America because we rely on those chips. So I think that is an important point. I'm not disagreeing with what he says on that point. I'm just saying that has been talked about as well. So we'll see. I am almost certain Zelensky is a cokehead. He did look a little wild in the eyes. I wouldn't be. I wouldn't doubt that a bit. He rubbed his nose even during the Trump clown show. This is funny. I wish Zelensky started to fight. Did it not feel like I want to see the memes to come out? I want to see the memes come out where they just jump up and they put a cartoon in there. Because I really believe at one point, I think JD wanted to just do a body slam on that guy. And Trump, I think he really wanted to backhand him right in the nose and bloody his nose. And Zelensky, he was itching for a little fight. He got the elbows out. He's up on the edge of his seat. He's like, "Let's go!" You can tell. And that last minute when Trump has dressed him down, I mean, he's moving that head. I mean, he is mad. He is so mad. Uh, he's, oh man, those are good points. It cracks me up. They did make a bigger clown show, and of course the libs are going nuts. Like I said, you don't never see that. They could have stopped it. They could have stopped it and said, "Hey, folks, we'll be back. Let's stop right here. We're going to go back. We're going to continue discussion. We'll have a press conference later." And you go in the back and you say, "What is your problem? What is your major malfunction?" You will not do that. And if you're going to do that, get back on your plane and go home. Now shut up and let's get a deal done. But they let it play out. I think Trump wanted to look to that. I think he said, "I let this play out. He wanted that to be seen." He said it was great TV. Trump wanted that. Once it started, I don't know if he planned it, but he wanted it. And it was he got to look tough. He said, "I've made you tough. Basically, without me, you're nothing." I mean, that's pretty much what he was saying. Good luck with that. uh, true, true statement. And that's what I was saying through that is, but if you don't have a deal, the Ukrainians continue to die, and they can't continue this fight much longer. I don't believe they have the resources, my friend, to continue this fight. I just don't think they have it. But you're right. And I've said this through this. The Ukrainian people are the losers here. They're the absolute losers. The freaking children that have been taken into Russia, I'm not going to let that go. Where are these kids at? The loss of life is staggering on the Ukrainian side of the military. They've lost land. They're going to lose. They've lost the ability. I mean, they can't. Their government can't support itself. The pensions, the paychecks, everything. Zelensky's salary, everything is being paid by us, and maybe a little bit by the Europeans, but I think it's mainly by us. And you're right; they get to continue to die. The outlook for Ukraine going forward, they had this thing, we're going to join NATO. We're going to be a part of these League of Nations and all that. It's not going to happen, and they're never going to allow that to happen. And they were trying to fast track NATO, which I still think they weren't going to let them, but they were insinuating they were going to get them in there. In fact, there were politicians in America saying they were going to do that. Maybe if Biden wins a second term, maybe that would have happened because there were people trying to fast track them in. There were a couple of nations. Was it Hungary? There was a couple of others that were stonewalling that too. So it wasn't just us, but the previous administration was definitely pushing for that. So it was like an angry teenager fighting with his dad. That's a great analogy. Uh, hey, Steve, Celtic Blacksmith. I do hate that he said it was great TV only because the left will cling to that. Yeah, he should have left that statement out. I mean, honestly. Um, yeah, just leave it where it lay. It almost goes back to his. I'm sorry, I'm lagging just a little bit in the stream. Again, hopefully you can hear me. My stream is excellent. I think it's just StreamYard. But the fact the said great TV is not good. So I hope I'm not being choppy through this. But we've had one hang up, and we don't normally see that. But maybe I've pushed StreamYard too hard today or something. Maybe they don't like what I'm saying. But Gus, great point, Steve. So yes, great points all, and I really like y'all's commentary because y'all always bring some good stuff, and so thank you for that, Steve. I haven't watched your Friday night yet because I was busy before and obviously during the show and went off the air, and we did some post work to that. But I definitely did. I definitely did continue to check in with you just a little bit there. I got rid of my lagging issues yesterday. I graded to fiber, ran a full 2 hour stream last night with absolutely no interruption. So it may be because I've separated the rumble today. I do have. It may be it is jumping back and forth, and it may be I am plugged in now, but that's the first time that's happened in a while. So it may be because I'm really sending to a lot of different streams, so I may not do that. So, but yeah, Steve, good job. You're doing good. Glad you had a good show. I'll be checking out today while I'm doing some things. So I apologize again for that. But we are pushing the envelope here a little bit today. So it is an hour and a half in, so maybe I'll just end there since I am lagging. But everybody have a great Saturday. I'm going to go get ready for work. I do work on Saturdays, and I'll be back tomorrow morning and tomorrow night and tomorrow afternoon probably. So, but great. I enjoyed every bit of it, and y'all are great. And we'll see you soon, and we'll get our song to go out on. Thank you, Jake, for the song. I don't know if you're still hanging around, but we do appreciate the song. It's been a blessing. We'll see you soon, folks. Y'all have a great Saturday. God bless.
Oh, well, it's early in the morning, grab a cup and tune on in. Robert and Dave got that southern charm, let the laughter begin. From the morning funny to MAGA minute, ain't no better way to start your day the southern way, with a little joke and pray. We're just southern folks talking southern things, front porch swinging where the church bells rang. From mama said to hum day news, we keep it real with down home views. Sunday morning in the Word, get that gospel flow. Prayer time calls, so let's let our troubles go. Come Monday night, mama said, is bringing the truth. And when it's night talk with Dave, man, you know it's getting loose. We're just southern folks talking southern things, stories and sports where the good times hang. From SFP News to I Remember That, we tell it like it is, and that's a fact. Got our veteran of the week, gotta show our pride. Pets of the week, bringing love worldwide. Talking paranormal, digging true crime. Southern fried stories all the dang time. So pull up a chair, y'all, and stay a while. Ain't nothing like that southern style. From the morning show to the soundstage band, it's SFP Live, won't you give them a hand? So pull up a chair, y'all, and stay a while. Ain't nothing like that southern style. From the morning show to the soundstage band, it's SFP Live, won't you give them a hand?